Hi, everyone, and welcome to another exciting animal loving, pet loving, and also comics loving and visual storytelling centered edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. Delighted on this episode to be joined by comics creator, author, artist, Anders Nilsen. Anders, thank you for jumping in and joining me.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I use the word comics. Is that a word that you use to describe your work?
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Cool. Cool. Uh, I have come to know it as kind of an umbrella term, so just wanted to make sure of that. And I'll mention a couple of titles, The End being one of those, Big Questions, Poetry is Useless, um, so many wonderful titles, Monologues After the Coming Plague, and then you've also shared a copy of this with me, so hopefully that does not make me disappear. Tongues. And so
That was pretty cool magic trick you just did there.
I try. It's the beauty of the Zoom background. Um, so you really do fascinating work, and I'm glad to talk with you. And curious as an initial question about what you like about visual storytelling, comics, and what's kind of drawn you to create and craft in this way. The cat is back.
Yeah, he's gonna. I might have to kick him out at some point. Uh, I mean, comics were the art form that as a kid, that was sort of like the most mine.
Hmm.
Like my mom would take me to museums, and I love that stuff too. Um, but it's like comics were the thing that I could like own, and I couldn't buy paintings when I was a little kid. um Comics I could own, and I could reread them 10 or 20 times, and just like really drill down into their the way they worked and the structure, and they would transport me and stuff. And so as I got older, like I tried a lot of different installation art and all kinds of stuff. And then once I was out of art school, like it just was sort of like coming home to the thing that I was the most comfortable with and that spoke to me the most.
Hmm.
And there's something about comics, it's like it is a visual medium, but it's also a storytelling medium, and storytelling is a huge uh like getting to do both of those is great. There's just so many possibilities, kind of. It's like comics unfolds through time, and you can play with time. You get to be, it's like with tongues, which is sort of more of a traditional like comics um, narrative style. Like I get to kind of be the actor and the director and the cinematographer and like all of it.
Hmm.
Um, so that, yeah, that's a big part of what draws me to it. It sort of feels infinite. I feel like when I finished art school and got back into comics, or like decided that's what I wanted to really explore, um, there was a real strong feeling of like the possibilities are endless. Like I could do this for my whole life and never exhaust the possibilities.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I love how your work steps into new territory. You try out new things. Just reflecting on some of the pages in Tongues are, very much the panel. There's some interesting creaturely work that happens on the page. And then also you have these pages where it's almost like I don't know if tessellations would be the word for it, but these very geometric designs. And so it's all very visually and narratively fascinating.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I try to, I don't know, like each project that I've done, trying to like explore some new bits and pieces of the medium. Um, and yeah, it's like there are just these sort of endless possibilities of dividing up a story. Um, so I think I know the sequence you're talking about in the new issue, and
Hmm.
and other places in the tongue story, there's been like a necessity of trying to talk about like deep time and like grand scale time, which is sort of an interesting problem.
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah, that kind of tessellation or like the whatever was just a way that I figured out to like try to address that.
Yeah, yeah. So curious about the visions that you want to bring to the page, maybe, and you can go after that question in any way that you'd like, if there's a particular like through line, or if maybe that's a vision that's changed over time.
Um, yeah, like a through line. I mean, like I said, I've done like I tend to jump around in terms of style and like each project sort of dictates its own form in a way, depending
Hmm.
on the subject matter or the story. Um, but there's for sure are through lines. So like um one thing that I think about a lot, if in becoming a storyteller or like having storytelling be my vocation or my whatever task. Um, I've always sort of thought about like what is storytelling at its most basic level,
Hmm.
and I feel like there's sort of two. It's like storytelling started in like two places. One is like what happened to me today, like just telling somebody else like a story about your experience,
Hmm.
and then
Hmm.
the other is dreams. Like our brains just make stories up. Like we shut everything down, go to sleep, and like our brains tell us weird little stories. And I've always been struck by with dreams how like you can wake up and try and like just have had like some kind of incredible experience,
Hmm.
and then you're having breakfast with your partner or whatever, and like you might want to try to express it, and like you can't even come up with a single word
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
describe this like profound thing that you just experienced. Um, and I feel like that's, maybe not quite to that level, but that's something I want to try to do in comics is like for sure tell like a clear story with characters and dialogue and the plot and whatever, but like also have this like greater feeling of like stuff's happening and I don't totally understand it, but it's like compelling,
Yeah.
and like maybe at the end of the story, like some of it gets explained or whatever, but like hopefully it leaves you with a sense of like being slightly altered.
Hmm. Hmm. That I love that aspect of dreams too, of recognizing where things in dreams come from sometimes and saying, oh, well, that must have been because I saw that or I heard them say that. And then there are those parts of dreams where it's like, I have no idea where that
Right,
came from. It was just some mixture of something and something original that kind of popped out.
right. Yeah, I mean it's sort of amazing what our brains can come up with, like, and also that you can be surprised in dreams.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's like your brain is creating the whole thing, so how do you not know the explanation, or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love that stuff.
yeah. So what is something that you hope readers take away? Because I'll say that there's a clear story to what you share, but it's also interpretive. There are definitely those moments where a story can be looked at in different ways. So curious about what you would hope to share.
um I mean, I guess maybe going back to that idea, that sort of like um well, yeah, and sort of like prompting people to look, and myself, like this is part of the pleasure of making comics, but also like for the reader, I would hope to kind of like get them to look at things in the world in a different way.
Hmm.
um like several books that I've done have involved animal characters sort of experiencing or like looking at the human world and like human objects or technology or whatever, and sort of like trying to understand it. And so looking at things, yeah, from a different perspective than we're used to is
Mm-hmm.
definitely like something that interests me. Yeah.
And definitely good practice as humans, stepping into another being's shoes and or not shoes, whatever it happens to be, and thinking about what experience is like and how we can respond to that. I love that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll hold up the book again because the next question is the creative journey question of what's next, what's currently happening, um, and of course where readers can go to learn more. So anything that you would share with us about tongues as well as any other creative pursuits that you're currently thinking about.
Well, so tongues. So yeah, the sixth issue is will be available at the end of October, um, early November. Um, and it marks kind of the halfway point in the story. So I'm continuing to work on it. I have like 20 some pages of the next issue drawn. And that's really my main project, for the next few years at least.
Mm-hmm.
It's by far, well, it's the biggest, most complex story I've ever done and probably ever will do. So it'll be a little while. Um, but then I always have little other projects in the works. I try to work in my sketchbook, um, and not just as kind of sketches, but like Tongues is very like it's complicated. There's a lot of characters. I have to keep them all straight. There's like several plot threads that sort of intertwine.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it takes a lot of planning. I got to be sure where I'm going before I take a step or whatever. Um, but I do these kind of sketchbook strips and drawings and stuff also that where I try to keep the a different part of my brain active and more improvisational
Mm-hmm.
drawing and storytelling. So that's sort of always a little bit in the background. And yeah, I don't know. I'm working on, I've done a few accordion books
Mm-hmm.
and trying to play with like the kind of different storytelling form that an accordion book offers. And that's something that's still in my brain. I'm about to put out a very, very limited edition, like accordion sketchbook edition. Um, and a few years ago, I had an opportunity to actually do so the accordion books that I've been doing are like it's like one super long landscape where like a story might unfold
Mm-hmm.
like through the landscape. Um, and a few years ago, I had an opportunity to do that in a room. So along the walls of the room, and like there were windows on one wall, and so the windows were like frosted out with they rolled buttermilk, I think, on the windows to like
Mm-hmm.
make them frosted, so I could draw on it, but then also cut it out. So there was like transparency in part of it, and then like
Oh, cool,
um
cool.
and that was super interesting, and I want to try to do that again. It was only up to for viewers like for 2 days. Like it was kind of ridiculous. I worked on it for like I don't know 10 hours a day for a week, and then it was only I think only like 35 people actually saw it. So I yeah, I have a fantasy about trying to get something like that going at some point, but
Uh,
that's probably years away.
that would be fascinating. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, so and the other question was spaces where people can connect and check out things that you're working on.
Sure. So I post stuff on Instagram
Mhm,
um,
mhm.
now and then. I recently tried to make a pledge to myself to post twice a week, which happened for a little while, and maybe I'll get back to it. And yeah, otherwise, my website, like my almost all of my work is available through my website, andersnilsen.com. Um, I'm gonna be at Short Run, which is a comics festival or a small press um, festival in Seattle at the first weekend of November. Um, I think those are the places.
Cool, very cool. Anything that we've missed? Anything as far as methods, messages, anything like that that you would want to share?
Um, I mean, not particularly. Not too much else. I feel like we covered most of it. I'm actually the thing that I'm working on at this very moment is I think I can say this out loud. Um, I'm making a little zine about how my girlfriend and I met.
Oh, nice, nice.
It's a little yeah, just like a little sort of autobiography. We're getting married next week, so it's going to be a little gift for people at the wedding.
I love
So
that.
that's been fun. It's been fun to like. I don't usually do. I have done some autobiographical stuff years ago. It's not my normal mode, but it's been super fun to do and to just kind of like inhabit like
Mhm.
whatever those moments in that day that we actually like met one another and formed a connection. So that's been fun. That's the only other thing that's preoccupying my comics brain at the moment.
Yes, and a wedding will absolutely also preoccupy your brain as well.
Yes,
So,
actually, yeah. There's many little details that still need to be ironed out.
yeah, yeah. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Anders, I won't keep you. I think you have a friend who very much wants your attention.
Yeah,
Um,
this Mr. Pig, and he wants pets.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But thanks for stopping by. Thanks for talking with me, and I'm always fascinated by the work that you're doing. So glad to talk with you anytime.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.